Jess Lujan.
And we're back with main studio guest Rlene Steffy, and she finally made it here. Yes, that's what happens in live TV. Hey, thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
And
Thank you for having me.
if I didn't have this notes, I tell you, I've watched every episode that you had, and so I kind of knew what I was talking about.
Yeah, it sounded like you did a little ad-libbing, but you did have good notes.
But it was great. But I tell you, it's fantastic watching this, and if I've missed an episode, like this week, I know I can watch it again next week,
Yes,
and it runs for a whole month. And I tell you, it's educational, very educational.
Thank
and
you.
even as I was telling our viewing audience there, even if you've been a student of history and Marianas and all that, there's still a lot to learn from this. And then we were talking just before we came on here is that all too often, even in my radio show, people said, man, for the longest time, we've been bullied, we've been this, we've been that, we've been that. Hey, history has shown that we've been players since the get-go.
Absolutely.
We've been players since the get-go.
We've been in charge. We have never been the victims. We've equally shared in the negotiations. We have always been part of, there's always been another side. I think what happened in the display of history, or in the promotion of history, is that it's very seductive, Jesse, to play the victim role. Because I can get more that way.
And talking about this, as a matter of fact, listening to some of your experts, again, Dr. Underwood as well, talking about the term Filipino, Chamorro, Tagalog, and all that. Lapu-Lapu died down, not knowing he was Filipino.
He wasn't Filipino, not as far as he was concerned.
Or Tagalog at that.
Yeah, those are terms that identified people by groups. Huh?
Sure.
I've always said the labels are very distracting.
Sure.
I'm a talk show host. I'm a producer.
Sure.
I'm a publicist. I'm a whatever. I'm just Rlene.
Yeah.
I like doing things.
And then going back again to times like that, in the Philippines and even in Guam at the time where you had our chiefs. And really at that time when you lived here and you had a chief for this, everybody was very clannish. They stuck to themselves. They weren't one united people.
No, they weren't. Well, when you use the term chief, another European concept, another outside, Papalago thoughts.
Okay.
When you have the term chief, you imply that there's a council, that there's a group of heads that dictate what's good and bad for that community. That's not what it was.
Sure.
They were family-centric. They're clan-centric. What only mattered to the Steffy family is what the Steffy family took care of, and the Lujan family.
Sure.
And we're still doing that today. But we have different societies that wrap around that.
Sure.
Okay, like Dr. Underwood said, history is always just about us.
Sure.
I've had many people, they want to support the show, they love the show, but where's the Chamorro side? Hello? The Chamorro's been there from the beginning.
Sure.
But they seem to only be concerned with where they were in grass skirts, where did they come from, what kind of canoes they had. That's later. Like I said in the notes I gave you, this whole circumnavigation of the world started with Columbus. Magellan came in on the bandwagon. And then if you want to take it, so did Mariano Borja. Mario's now a designer, creator, a sailor. I mean, this is not something he was born to do. But he's now, as we make an effort to be part of our history, or maybe try to recover or try to reconstruct what has been lost because of the Spanish domination, the Japanese domination, the American domination, whatever domination. We are now trying to regain things that we know in our history, whether that be canoe making, chanting, dance, any kind of cultural arts. That's where we're redefining ourselves, but we are reconstructing those things because we don't know what they were. They were not delineated in family lines. I didn't inherit the secrets to putting herbs together, right? I go to the pharmacist. But,
that's right.
But if they were delineated, if it came down generation after generation after generation, we wouldn't be reconstructing anything. We would know for sure. But because we don't know for sure, because it was interrupted, because the Spanish wanted to control the people, catechize them, put them in villages where there was a bell, a church, and a convento, that changed our history.
And that was it. I mean, the main village always had a church, and the bell was heard from all over.
If
basically.
you didn't hear the bell, you could not be trained that when one bell
Sure.
rang, it meant
Sure.
one thing.
Sure. And actually, and our setting is kind of the same way. Our
Exactly.
villages are still, every village has got a church.
We still have a different bell.
Yeah.
What is
That's
the
right.
bell here?
That's right.
6 o'clock,
That's
the
right.
news.
That's right.
My husband's on his recliner at 6 o'clock every night watching your news. That's a bell.
Yeah. So